the birds. Let that stay for a while. This was my grandfather's grapevine. He grew on his garage in Ozone Park 50 years ago. In 1973, when he perished, we took it to our home in Seaford, where I grew up. Nassau County, Long Island, where it grew on my father's garage for another lifetime. I brought it here to my home. It's been here for 20 years. It gives me this every year. This year we're going to make some grape juice. Real fresh Concord grape juice. If I was patient, I would make it into wine, but I'm not a patient man. Delicious. Really good. Gotta leave some for the birds. Okay, the grapes have been picked. They've been washed thoroughly, kind of soaked for a little bit in ice cold water up by the hose. I've got a bowl to put the good grapes in. I've got a bowl to put the rejects in. We're going to de-stem and get rid of any crushed or destroyed grapes or unripened grapes. Are going to go in there, the good ones right down here. And this is how the process goes. Find a nice cool place to hang out. I'm out in my garage with the fans on, overlooking the gardens. Got my favorite morning TV show on in the background. And you take your time. Only ripe grapes, no stems, no visitors. Never know what you're gonna run across. Beautiful grapes. They're very ripe. I waited as long as I could. The birds were starting to take their toll. I leave quite a bit on there for the birds. There are even a whole bunch of raisins I left out there for them. They love those. See birds flying all around the neighborhood with grapes in their beaks. It's great. Gonna have to start putting out bird food again. It's getting to that time of year. Not much in the way of seeds left over for them after the summer. It's always a fun time. See a lot of the migratory birds that stop here on Long Island on their way back to the southern region for the winter. This is always a favorite stopover in the autumn. And come and eat my grapes, get energy. You see how much goes into making a glass of grape juice. I guess there are more automated ways to do this. Like I was telling you earlier, this grapevine goes all the way back to my grandfather's house in Ozone Park, Queens, where my father grew up on Gold Road. It was there all my father's life, up until 1973 when my grandpa passed away. And we moved Grandma out to our house out in Hempstead on Long Island. She lived with us for about 15, 16 years through my childhood. Learned a lot from your grandparents. Pretty good. A lot of ripeys on here looking very sweet. I was munching on a few earlier. They are very sweet. I'm going to be adding a bit of sugar to this. Either way. Sugar or honey, I'm not sure. I prefer sugar, I believe. The honey adds too much of its own flavor. It becomes a honey juice. This particular flavor is important to me. It's not just, vitamins. It's memories. I'm a bit on the lazy side, I suppose. I'm just going to make juice out of these, but Grandma used to make grape jelly. And one of my earliest memories in life is the feeling and the taste of wax in my teeth from the jelly jars. She would use paraffin wax to seal the jars. Just a memory. There's something about aroma and taste. They are very, very closely connected to our memories. You know, stop and smell the roses once in a while, right? The reason I keep the grapevine is so I can, once a year, stop and pick a grape off and eat it. Maybe watch a couple of birds feed themselves on the grapes. There's a benefit to that too. It's healing watching nature. That's a beautiful one. It's a real beautiful one. These have seeds. They don't bother me none. I don't want the ones that the birds started on. They all kind of congregate on one side of the trellis and I go to the other. It's kind of like an agreement. We kind of work together. So they know what's going on. The vine's been out there for many generations of birds, so I don't know how much of this I will show you. I guess we'll go fast forward at some point and maybe put it in a little picture-in-picture box off to the side. But it is a slow process. Get yourself a nice comfortable chair. I'm standing here with the camera right now, so I'm actually starting to feel it in my lower back, which is what I don't want to see happen to you. Get a nice comfortable chair, turn on some music. So you don't want the crushed ones. You don't know where it's been. I'll put these out for the birds. After my grandpa passed, we brought out a piece of the grapevine and we planted it next to my father's shed, his house in Hempstead. It grew there for my entire life, and like I said, it's been an every year thing for me since childhood to go out in the backyard, and if you got a little hankering for something sweet, you just walked over to the grapevine and took a few handfuls off, and that was that. So when my father sold his house to move to the great state of Florida, I was sure to take a big hunk of that grapevine and bring it back to my home. Well, I'm also in Hempstead, so it wasn't a great distance. I rooted it, took care of it, nurtured it for a year or two, and eventually it took root. I've moved it to a couple of places around the backyard, the front yard. Right where it is now, it gets a lot of beautiful sun, so it grows beautifully. It's in the front yard. Put it on a little trellis, keep it off the ground so the rabbits don't get too much. And it took off, it did very well there, so I'm sure the next few years it should be very productive. I tend to trim it back to the basic stem again every year and keep it about 3 foot tall or so. Not much bigger than that. Less tree, more fruit, right? It's actually quite a beautiful stem if you get a good look at it in the wintertime. It has like a bonsai look. It's very ornamental in the winter. I put Christmas decorations on it. It's kind of funny. But I'm not the first guy to decorate his grapevine though. Another one of those situations where I wish that you could appreciate the aromas that are coming off of this bowl right now. It's fantastic. It's subtle. It's not like opening up a jar of tomato sauce, but you could smell the freshness and the greenness. You know, when someone got to that one, it's on my hands. You can smell it. It's just beautiful. It's life. You don't want any stems or leaves because this is going to be, crushed with a potato masher, and you don't want to add any bad flavors, and the stems will add bad flavors. The other trick is, now these are seeded grapes, you don't want to be crushing the grape seeds. You will tinge the grape juice brown if you do that, so you have to, I guess it just comes with experience. I can't exactly tell you how to do it, but the potato masher works pretty well at them. Frankly, that's why the old Italian women use their feet, because they're actually very sensitive and supple to doing that job, where it will crush the actual grape flesh without crushing the seed. You know, it's hard enough to crush the flesh, but not hard enough to crush the seed. You got to keep that in mind when you're pounding on these. You really don't want to hit them too hard. Now, if you're buying seedless grapes from the farmer's market, forget about that. You know, my grandpa came into the country at the turn of the last century in early 1900s. My grandma, she was a Long Island girl. They were out in Patchogue. Yeah, definitely feeling it in my lower back. I'm kind of hunched over the tripod right now doing this. How does it look? You can just see my hands here. Yeah, behind these hands, I'm kind of hunched over. The camera's right here next to me. I gotta watch. They keep dropping in with a little bit of stem on them if I'm not paying attention. I have to go through these again. My grandma wouldn't have let that happen. My grandmother was a better person than I was. My father even better. It was an amazing generation of people. My grandmother lived through the pandemic back in 1918. She was born in the 1890s. She was right here in New York, right where it was centered. That was a rough one. I was born just before the pandemic in 1968. I was born in 67, September of 67, Summer of Love. I was adopted in 1969 after the pandemic. They called it the Hong Kong flu back in 68. In 18, they called it the Spanish flu. Those are our grapes. Okay, the next step is the potato masher, but I think I want to put this on the bottom of something flat rather than a bowl like this. So I'm going to take a minute and I will come right back. Thank you for watching today. We just harvested some Concord grapes off of my grapevine, and we're going to make some grape juice. No sense canning or preserving this. There's just no point. I'm going to probably drink it before lunch. But, cheers, everybody. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, I'm back. For the next step, I need more of a flat-bottomed pot. It's just a sauce pot, a large one. We're going to put our destemmed, cleaned grape harvest right into the pot. Make sure you have a good view. Rather than me taking off my shoes and socks and making everybody ill, I got the potato masher. Now, as I was saying before, you don't want to go to town on these bad boys. Just a little squish, just to break them open and allow the juice to leave. You don't want to crush it right down to the metal bottom, because then you will crush the grape seeds and tinge, is that a word? Tinge the juice brown. I did it once and I drank it. It was good. I mean, but it's not, it doesn't look appetizing, you know, drinking brown juice, you know. Nothing much like that out there. Probably very healthy, right? The grape seeds. I know there are a lot of antioxidants in this kind of food. People have been doing this for thousands of years, not just because it tastes good. It's very vitamin rich and antioxidant rich, so. Okay, I'm just about there with the mashing. Now this started out as 4 pounds of grapes without being clean. That was with the stems and everything. It was 4 pounds. I probably pulled out a good pound of stems. So they say each pound of grapes will give you a cup of juice. So I'm looking at about a pint, between a pint and a quart of juice when I'm done. Okay, now you could be purist and not put any sugar in this at all. I'm going to put my, in this one I'll probably put a half a cup of sugar in, about this much. It might be a little bit much. It's definitely okay if you want to put a little sugar in here. This is, you know, make this every day. It's a treat. I don't want to suffer through it. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay, the water is definitely coming out of these grapes. Just by chance, God bless me with a half a handful. It's the perfect way to measure. And this will also help to extract some of the juice. Smells so good. Okay, now some water to cover. We're pretty close now. If you don't add the water, it'll just be very, very concentrated. This just makes it better. Okay. Again, I'm not trying to pound it all the way down to the bottom. Just letting the weight of the tool in my hand kind of wake everything up. Okay, now some very gentle heat. Maybe number 3. We don't want to be burning this, we just want to slowly bring it up to temperature. And this step helps kill any bacteria that'll be in there. We don't want to hurt anybody. It smells really good. You don't want a lot of heat here. Nice, slow and steady. I'm on number 3, 3.5 here. We've been on for about 20 minutes or so, maybe even a half an hour. But you can see the juice is coming out and the flavor is coming out. A few more minutes. We're back, and this looks like it is ready. Just bring it up to a bit of a boil, not much. Again, we're just killing bacteria, releasing the juices from the fruit. Next is going to be the sieve. Okay, I got a bowl to collect and a sieve to strain with.
The grape seeds on the bottom. Leave those out.
Okay. The bowl's gonna get hot. You can see what's happening. Got the bowl underneath catching the juice.
Smell the grape seeds.
Again, I'm trying not to mash it too hard. I don't want to break up the seeds. I'll let that drain and let it cool off a little bit, and be very careful with this liquid. It's full of sugar, hot sugar, bad burn. So use caution, kids. And all this would go in the compost heap. Good compost. There's probably other things you can do with it too. I don't know. It's something I could look up, I'm sure. And a lot of nutrients in here. So this would be considered a fresh juice, not a raw juice. It's like you're seeing, I'm cooking it right now. This is not raw. This is cooked. Fresh grape juice. From grapes right off the vine just a few moments ago. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit and drain for a while. Thank you so much for pushing on that button and joining me on our little adventure making grape juice. Fresh out of the gardens. A gift from a generation ago. Here's our grape juice. Now I just ran it through the metal sieve. Some people like to put on a cheesecloth and take out more of the sediment. I'd rather keep the sediment. If you want to drink it, you shake it up before you drink it. If you want, you let it settle out in the jar and you don't drink it. So I think you have more choices this way, and the sediment is good for you. I'm just using the screw lids. It's going to go in the refrigerator. I'm not going to try to keep this very long. It's not going to last very long. what I'll do with the rest here, I've got a bit more. Put that in a glass for myself, and this will go in the refrigerator. I might be giving this to my next door neighbor. They always appreciate a little grape juice in the summertime. Hi everybody. I know it's a little backlit. These are the 2 jars of Concord grape juice that I yielded, plus the little glass for tasting today. The best way to serve this is ice cold. I've had this in the refrigerator. It actually iced up. Nice and thick it is. It's very concentrated at this point. That's why you want to have it over a tall glass of ice. I prefer the sediment that's in this, so I mix it up. If you let this settle in the refrigerator for a couple of days, it'll be a lot clearer. Or you can filter it again. But there's a lot of goodness in there you don't want to pass up on. That's the end product. It wasn't much more than a few hours between when we were outside with a scissor and we were cutting the grapes off the vine. Took them in the house, washed them thoroughly, destemmed, and picked out all the unripe and the damaged grapes. Right? Put them in the pot, gave them a mash with the potato mashers, or with your feet if you prefer. Brought it up to a simmer very slowly in a pot, and then ran it through a sieve and filled up 2 pint bell jars, mason jars. I'm not going to try to preserve these or can them or anything like that. These are going to be for consumption today, I would imagine. Between myself, the family, and my next door neighbor, we'll probably just have a drink, toast. So, cheers everybody. This one's for my grandfather, Charles. This was on his house. Thanks, Grandpa. Delicious. Fresh Concord grape juice. It's a little strong like this. You can water it down as much as you like. My method is I put it over ice, especially on a hot day like this. It'll melt fast enough, and you kind of swirl it in between your sips. It's really good. Now, another option is to run the wine course, where you'd add sugar, put these in bottles, and let it ferment. I suppose I'm not an expert on making one. I'm not an expert on making juice. This is just something that I do. I'm not hardly telling anybody how to make grape juice. This was for entertainment purposes only. This is something that I do once a year to celebrate my heritage, my family, my history. This is a flavor of my family right here. Something that 3 generations have enjoyed one way or another, whether it be a glass of juice, a jar of jelly, or a bottle of fine wine. It's always been there, once a year. Thank you everybody for watching. This one's a little special to me.